Okay, well, welcome everybody to the Windows working group. Just taking roll here. Who's attended? Oh, cool. Got some more people showing up. Thank you for coming, guys. Everybody. Just wanted to note that we had a new release last week, I think. Maybe it was 2 weeks ago. Maybe even 3. Can't remember. Anyway, 3006.8 is out. Okay. And we are working on this one. Once we get our pipeline green and passing, then we'll be doing a 3007.1 release. That's expected to happen next week, but we like to not commit to a date because sometimes we have problems and things get pushed back. Some recent PRs that went in for Windows, some updates to the command module, specifically fixing some issues with command.script, where when you did it with run as, it wouldn't run. So I think that's addressed in that PR. And then a fix to the LGPO NetSH Salt Util. It was using NetSH under the hood to set firewall settings on the local policy, but apparently command line does some localization, so it wouldn't work in other languages, but PowerShell doesn't. So having all those run in PowerShell instead of NetSH, instead of command line or CMD. Last time we talked about Mend Renovate, which is a project that David has been working on to keep our versions updated. Right now, it's just doing our runners and like our GitHub Action workflow items, if I understand correctly. But the plan is to eventually have this monitor other packages and add versions to those. So kind of a small team trying to manage that, and that would help us in keeping our versions updated. We talked about the copier templating tool. We talked about Salt Call as a user without needing permissions, and I can't remember what we talked about with that, just that we talked about it. And then we talked about a PR on WinRepo that Cromwell had put in. Also, I don't know if David, if you had remembered about the demos here, if you had time. If not, that's good.
Yeah, I've been preparing.
Okay. Did you want to do that now and then have discussion after that?
Well, is there anything else? Or yeah, okay. Shall I do that now and then we can move on to other things afterwards?
All I've got after this is the community discussion. So,
Well, unless anybody else has something they want to bring up at this moment, we can move forward with the demo. Yes.
okay. So I'll stop the share and I think you can share.
Right. Okay, so yeah, this is all coming off the discussion that we had at the last meeting, really. And yeah, one of the things that I mentioned was I'd set up a copier template for creating your own WinRepo repository. And I've got an example here, which is a WinRepo repository just for one package, which is WizTree, which is a Windows space finder, space calculating tool. Is very useful. It works very quickly. And just as an example, to show you that all of the CI is set up as in the main repository, I've got a pull request in already to add one version. So that is adding version 4.19. The tests have all run already and should be able to merge this. And that is done. And so you can set up another in your master configuration, you can set up this repository as another, well, either a file route or using GitFS or in the WinRepo settings, you can have multiple repositories there, which are going to be pulled down when the master does the update. So yeah, this is built using a tool called Copier, which I've only become aware of in the last few months, really, or maybe the last 6 months. Copier is a project template renderer, which is written in Python. And so basically you can create all kinds of templates for projects, all different kinds of projects, really, like a Python project, JavaScript or whatever. But yeah, we're using it here to create a template for um, a WinRepo repository. So the template itself is here. And so going through all of the files here is a bit out of scope for this discussion because it can get quite complicated. But really, the files that you want to end up in the resulting project are all under this directory template here. And so these are basically sort of copied from the original WinRepo directory, and there's a method of keeping these up to date as well. So yeah, the pre-commit configuration and then the workflows here. And so these, you run Copier, this tool Copier, and then it creates a new repository with all of these files in the correct place.
And you can update your new repo as well as this one gets updated.
Yes, that's a function of Copier. It doesn't have to work like that, but it's a feature. And yeah, maybe we'll get into that in a bit. But what I think I was going to show was basically using this template to create a completely new repository. So fingers crossed that this will work. Right, so I'm a fan of the GH GitHub command line tool, so I'll be using that for the demo. And so you can create a new repository from the command line. Right, temp WinRepo. So that's created the repository on GitHub and it's cloned it here, and it's basically empty with just the license file. So you call a copier tool, and to initially copy a template, use the command copy, and then there's a shortcut for GitHub. And so basically, it's taken the template and it's copied all the files down, and they are now here in the local repository. And then you would add all of those. Actually, I wanted to do that in a different branch. So I've committed all of those files. I've created a PR. And we should be able to see that here on the website. So this is the PR that's been created, and it's running through the CI. And then we'll be able to, once those tests all pass, we'll be able to merge that, and we'll basically have a new WinRepo repository ready to go. And yeah, the template comes with an example package, and following the style that we've sort of come to use recently. But obviously you will want to change that and add your own packages as you move forward with this. So yeah, those tests will take a couple of minutes to run.
It's awesome. I've never seen that. I've never used that GitHub command line tool, the GH.
Yeah, it's great. In fact, I mean, you can do everything from the command line. You can even watch the checks run.
Huh.
Um, and then, yeah, when he's finished, you can do the merge from the command line as well, which I'll do in a second. So that is the PR merged and closed, and the branch is deleted. And so, yeah, we have a completely new WinRepo repository ready to work on. Yeah, and Shane, you mentioned, can the template then be updated as time goes on? And yeah, it can. That's a function of Copier. You would use a Copier update tool. There's this file here in the new project which stores the version of the template which it was created from. And when you update the template, you can then run this update command and then commit those changes. And so, yeah, that's how I would propose that we keep the workflows up to date with all of the version numbers here and things like that. So, yeah, and it's even possible to use Renovate to detect that there's a new template version, and then it can create a PR, but it's not because Renovate doesn't know about Copier at the moment. There is an issue open about that. It can't actually apply the changes for you, so that's still a manual process. So that is creating a new repository. And there was something from the last meeting. You mentioned that we were discussing using Salt as a local user without needing to worry about permissions and things. And that is something that I have been using. And as an example, I've set that up with that WizTree repository. So I should be able to do, yeah, so I can run the minion commands in the command line just in locally in this repository. And one use of it is if you're making changes to a package file and you want to check that the package file renders correctly, you can call WinRepo show SLS, and that will process the package file, and if there's a mistake, it will flag that error up. and that there's also a copier template for that. I mean, this is really quite simple, but it's based around this salt file, which is something that the salt command line utilities use for kind of configuration local to that directory. And all this one does is sets the config dir configuration option for salt call, and it says to look in the directory .salt/etc in the local directory instead of the defaults, which are yes /etc or whatever. And so because this is in your home directory, it can write into those directories. Actually, there's a bit more configuration here. Okay, there's something strange going on here. So yeah, it says router to .salt and the file client to local. So it's not going to call out to a master. It's just going to do all the work in the local directory. And if I've got tree here, you can see that the salt minion writes all its files here in the local directory, but you don't really have to worry about that. And yeah, so you can use this template, you can just copy it down into a local directory, but there's one catch with this that I've recently discovered, that it only works with versions up to 3006.5 at the moment, because there was a change to the file server in terms of relative directories or something. So I'll have to look into that a bit more, but I find this useful for example,
There are some directory traversal issues we were
yeah, it's
fixing,
something to do with
some
that, and I think it's
CVEs.
prevented the sort of workflow that I was doing previously. That's been prevented now, so I don't know if there's something we can do about that. But I do find this local salt thing very useful. So, for example, you can look up the documentation and things like this just very quickly in the command line, and without having to set up a master and a minion and file permissions and things like that. So let's see. You can look up the documentation. So yeah, that's basically the end of the demo. So if anybody's got any questions about this, then feel free to ask away.
That's awesome. So the that CVE patch, did it break salt file, or is there just some, it's expecting it to be in certain directories, or
Right, so the thing which is broken is for this setup that I've got file roots, and it's the current directory. There's just the dot, and I believe that is not allowed anymore. But I only discovered the bug a few days ago, and so I haven't looked into it. But I just know that if you're using Salt 3006.5 and earlier, it works, and afterwards it doesn't. So, but with this local Salt thing, depending on how your whole setup is, but I'm using Salt in a virtual environment, so you can pin essentially the version that you want to run. On Windows, this does work on Windows, I believe, but you would have to install the Windows Minion package at the right version, I think. But yeah, maybe we can look into that change that happened with the CV and see if there's a way around it to get my previous workflow working again.
yeah, and submit an issue for it. I don't know if we were aware that we broke that, so
I
I
think that
wasn't.
this is a very niche application of Salt, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's not tested in any way. But yes, it's a pity that this no longer works. Um, And any other questions about Copier or the WinRepo template?
Maybe next time. Currently still processing, but it's
Okay.
really cool what you showed though. And didn't know about Copier, so gonna look into that as well.
Yeah, it's something that I've just discovered in the last few months. And we want to use it to create a template for formulas as well, salt formulas, so that will be helpful. We haven't got that far yet though.
And I think it's the main tool they'll use for salt extensions.
Yeah, that's also true as well, yeah.
Awesome, man. Thank you for putting that together. Appreciate that. It's really cool. Looks like we got some questions in chat here. I don't let's look at it
So
here. I don't know if it's
Alex is saying it looks like it kind of forking the target repository. I wouldn't say it's forking because that suggests that there's some kind of link in GitHub, but it it uses a source repository and it copies the files down to the local repository, but it does it in a way that you can do a lot of configuration. So it's a templating engine, so it uses Ginger, so you can ask the user questions about what they want, how they want to configure the project, and it will apply those to the templates and write those to the local directory. And yeah, one interesting thing, if I've got, is even the file names in this sort of the template, it renders those as well. So that as an example here, you can put Ginger in the file name, and then when Copier sees this file in the template, it will render that and produce or generate a file with the rendered name. So you can do a lot of programmatic things based on the answers that the user gives. So yeah, I think that answers that question.
yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll stop sharing here and I'll probably have to write up some of this to make it easier to find and maybe put something in Saltwin repo to say that people can now do this.
Yeah, and a readme
Yeah.
or something in there.
And just as an aside, really, actually, no, that'll be taking it too complicated. I can come back to this in the future if we need to.
Okay.
Okay, so I've stopped sharing there.
All right. Let me share my screen. Okay. I think that's both your demos. Now we'll open it up for any other items of discussion that anyone wants to bring.
I can share, like I think I mentioned in the Discord channel last week because I was trying to update Salt Minion through Chocolatey package. And they are not updating the Salt Minion history versions. So anything before 3006.8, if you're trying to use Chocolatey package for Salt Minion, it's probably gonna turn you an error because there was a change in the path on your side, I think, on the Salt project side.
A change
And
in what?
like where the executable is. So in the URL path.
Oh, in the
Yeah,
repo.
in the
Yeah, in the
repo,
repo.
yeah. And I'm not sure even if Chocolatey supports sort of going back to old versions and changing the details of the package. And
Yeah,
also,
I reached out to the maintainers and their
Mhm.
response was literally that unless someone would specifically request for that, they would update it, but otherwise no. They just bring in the new versions. So just figured
Yeah.
out I'd share that info here.
So what's the latest version they have?
But now they have, I mean, they have latest version because I was using or trying to update to 3006 and then point 6 and 7 and 8. Yeah, 7 and 8. 8 they have now, and they have 3007 latest as well. So 3006 was not working, the history versions, because I was trying. I think 3006.4 was failing, 3006.5 was failing. And then I just made my own package and I informed them that that's not working.
And they said that they're not going to
They
fix
would
that.
they would not update it unless we request it.
So how do you request it?
You just send an email to the maintaining group there.
Okay, let's see where.
So you go under Chocolatey Salt Minion packages and then you send an email to the group. That's how I done it. And that's the answer they gave me. I can copy paste it if needed. Yeah, that's the one. And then they have, like, if you scroll down, they have history versions and yeah, the 3006 versions were confirmed not working unless they updated them now in the last 2 weeks.
Okay, so these do not work.
Yeah.
But this one did?
3006.5 for sure.
The
This
latest
one I
worked?
did not test because like in our setup, we were using the container, Docker container, but there's no version above 3006.5. So I didn't make my own yet.
Okay.
Because we were updating for 3000, we had 3005.1 and now we switched to 3006.5.
Who
But yeah,
manages
just making
this?
ever. On the left side, you see the package maintainers.
Oh, these guys. Okay.
Yeah, this is just community maintained.
Yeah.
So no official support, neither from Salt Project or Chocolatey itself.
I mean, there was like a very clear error when I was running it, so at least people will be aware. I think it's best that I make some comment below, but my suggestion would be that maybe we get some, like, if the versions are still being used, then maybe we should ask them to update it so people don't lose trust into.
Okay, I'm gonna have to do some
package.
research into chocolatey packages, maybe contact some of these guys.
There is a GitHub repository which holds these package definitions. So I guess what somebody could do is make the changes required in that and do a PR for that repository. And I can't see why they would
Yeah, I
then
would
refuse
like,
that.
I was thinking because it's
That's
literally just
saving work.
updating the URL for that specific thing. It's not like you need to do much more.
Well, they've made new packages out of them.
That's
That's not it.
how Chocolatey works. That's not these aren't the installers for Salt or anything like that.
I don't know what a new package is. Well, I mean,
It's something to do
it's,
with
it's like the App Store stuff, right?
Yeah, C#,
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, basically just the upper part would have to be updated in the older versions. but I don't know, like it didn't seem like you can contribute to the repo.
We should be able to fork it and then create a pull request.
Oh,
Do they
okay,
block it?
then-
Do they?
I don't know.
No,
Like I
think
honestly
you can
didn't
do
look
that,
at
but
it.
yeah, it's not clear to me how you actually make
Yeah.
these new packages.
Was like all ready to go, but then I didn't really find my way through yet. So I can find out till next time. If you feel like that's helping.
Might have something to do with the spec file here.
I think that is metadata about
About the package,
it,
yeah,
but
just
the
information.
individual, the things which change with each release are in those new packages. I don't know how you create those new packages, but it's something to do with C# tooling.
Like the new package, because I created it for our own repo in Chocolatey that we have. It's literally you just need executable and then the install and uninstall PowerShell script. That's it. And the metadata file that you were just looking at. So I can,
But
like,
what
if they're
what
allowing
is
contributing, then I can perhaps something up.
how do you manipulate those files though? Those new packages.
I think that, like, if we're looking here now in this specific example, all we have to do is like on the older, so this is 368, so this one's pointing to the correct exe file, right? But the one, for example, for 3006.5, we just need to adjust line 6 in this specific install. Line 6 and potentially line 4.
I only see one file though. I don't see
that's
a
it.
file for
This is it.
each.
Because they're pointing to your where you have the exe files, that's why. So we don't actually need executable here.
This looks
Itself.
hard coded.
Yes, it is. That's the reason why it's failing.
So you can only install the latest with Chocolatey? Is that
No, I think all of the previous versions, when you create them, they're current at the time, and you make this new package with the version. I mean, and that's where my
Exactly.
knowledge stops. I mean, there must be some kind of tooling to do with NuGet.
so they're inside the NuGet, those
Yeah,
scripts
something
are.
like
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
I'm
Okay.
There
just
you go. You
remembering
have
NuGet.
you have salt minion
NuGet.
3006.5 dot new noop dot kj. Can you
Basically,
click on that one?
Chocolatey is
One row lower.
Which one?
Or 3006.5. Let's just check that one out.
This
It's
one?
5 from below. This one.
but it's a binary file.
Ah, okay. Then there's not much we can do on this one.
They're a viewer. I don't know.
Okay.
You
Comment
just zip files
zip
normally.
files, yeah.
So if I open it with a zip,
Yeah, it should be fine.
Just the metadata then. I can, like, are you gonna reach out, or I can reach out that they update the older versions and we see what they say? Like for us, we solved the problem. We're just self-hosting, but
okay. So you can submit a oh yeah. Okay. So here's what's in that. If I pull that up here, how do I? So it's going to, it's not going into minor. It needs to go into
Yeah.
the minor.
exactly.
'cause-
That's the only change that's basically is causing the
So
issue.
can you modify that package and then push it up as a PR? That would.
You can give an attempt and see what happens. if they do anything about it or not.
Is there anything else I wonder that maybe?
No, it's really just like installer and uninstaller.
Don't need to update anything in here.
No.
That docs looks old. Oh, right here, version maybe. Oh, no, then version would probably be the same.
Yeah, if we're going for specific, it's really just that executable that's failing, so wouldn't need to do update much more than that. Just pointing to the correct path.
I wonder how they
Um,
build those. They've got to have some build script, but they don't have that in here.
I have no idea.
Yeah. Okay. So we are gonna put that in here. Did you want to do that, or do you want me to have a look at that?
I can
Of
follow
submitting a
up with
pull
them and
request.
see, and then share the learnings next time. I have freed up coming 2 weeks, so I should be around a bit more. Yeah, I feel like chocolate is kind of wide used around, especially in Windows community, so it felt like should be kind of raised up. I don't know if you agree or not.
Yeah, it's a fair
Yeah.
comment.
So it would make sense that we make sure that all 3007, 3006, what about, and not older, right? If those two are up to date, then should be fine.
Well, 3005 is in extended life support, I think. So it's
Yeah,
only
yeah,
has
you're
limited
right.
support. So, yeah, there's no point going back too far.
This one's
Yeah.
easier, I promise. I don't need to write any articles. I just need to submit what I already have ready pretty much. And yeah, I did have one more question, if that's okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Like related to the chocolatey as well. Like we're trying to make sure that we run, like I was trying to use the batch in the master config, but it doesn't seem to be working. I wrote something in the Discord. So we use the batch save size and a batch wait because I wanted to delay the run.
Okay,
Like
but
6.
do you know that you can use batch just on the command line as well? That's how I've used it in the past. So you do -B and 5 or whatever, or 10. Are
So
you familiar with that?
like personally, I haven't used it. Like we're running everything through GitHub Actions, the
Okay, I see.
orchestration and so on. So I'm curious, how can I run that without manual entry, and that I have still an overview what happened.
Where did you post this? Was this in the general
Windows
channel?
channel
Thread,
in the
I-
Windows under the today's thread, where the
It's
yeah
just there.
one higher. Where it says one message. Just click on one message.
Oh, you've added it in this. Okay.
There you
Oh, I
go.
see.
What I don't have a lot of experience with batch, but what I can say is that somebody asked questions about these configuration options a few
Mhm.
weeks ago or a month ago. And if you search on sort of batch safe limit in Discord, some information will come up.
Yeah, I read through and they said that through orchestration's not potentially gonna work.
I see.
But then like I then tried what was shared regarding basically the example I just showed, and that didn't seem to work.
You have to pass the -B option for batching to work.
But Leo wants to configure it in the master configuration, which is possible.
Or per state, whatever basically really works. I don't need to force it on master config. I just understood that basically master config knows what's going on, so that's why it needs to be there. I haven't checked this documentation, so I made me a note.
So this
Yeah,
thing,
sorry,
I'll-
you go ahead.
so in GitHub Actions, do you sort of spin up a master in GitHub Actions, or does GitHub Actions contact your master or something like that? So not sure I understand the workflow that you've got.
We have like a GitHub runner, and then we're running like
Oh,
that's
master-
basically yeah, exactly a
Or
master.
in that runner.
Yeah, exactly.
And then does that contact then minions which are sort of permanently running or something? Or
Exactly.
okay, so yeah, I would imagine that there's a command there somewhere, and you might be able to do this -B thing, but I
Okay.
guess that's
Okay, so these are all, at least in this document that you link to,
Yeah.
these are all to be added on the command line. I'm not seeing it in the Saltmaster config docs that these are
Okay.
looked at in the config file. Seems strange that you wouldn't be able to have a default batching.
well, all I can say is somebody brought this up in Discord, and Thomas Phipps commented on it,
Oh,
and
they're
Derek,
right here.
and they didn't say, "Oh, this doesn't work" or anything like that.
Yeah, I literally tried this, and I know it's not working because we're using some Choco packages and they have rate limit there. So I got instantly timed out again. And there's no indication also in the master event, state events, or in any type of log that it's really working. So I figured I'd ask here if you have potentially tried this out.
Well, I haven't myself.
No problem. All good.
I don't see batch weight though in there. It's not say it's not there, but
Yeah, I picked it up from that other documentation that you initially opened, the one that I shared.
oh, it's just that one. Dang it. Yeah, that's command line. This is all from the
Yeah,
CLI.
okay. Okay.
So you pass that on the command line and then set the other two in the config. But I don't know if anything that's passed on the command line can also be in the config. I'm not sure if that's the case or not.
All right, Theo. Thank you, though.
Your master is an Ubuntu, or it's a Linux master
Yeah, it's Ubuntu.
running this on. You might want to post this question in the general channel,
Sure.
you'd get more.
Shane, there's a comment in chat, in the Zoom chat, from David.
Is it just me or we lost Shane? I think disconnect happened.
He does seem frozen.
Okay, well, we'll see if he comes back in a second.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it looks like I'm the host for the moment.
Go ahead.
But we'll wait and see if Shane comes back, because there's not much we can do without him, really, in terms of finishing up the meeting. But in terms of your comment, David, I know that there are some, in terms of the states, the way Salt works is depending on the minion, Salt loads a different execution module or a different state module depending on the operating system of the minion. And so a lot of the modules for Windows start with win underscore. And so those are the ones which sort of take priority on Windows. But yeah, that's not always the case. And I guess there is something missing in the documentation in terms of what works and what doesn't on Windows. I'll try and get Shane to make a note of that.
Yeah, thanks. It's just a comment we've got from our users most of the time, because they are just Windows guys, and they are a bit lost every time, saying, "Yeah, it's not working, it's not working." But obviously, they are taking the properties for Linux minions. So that's why.
Right. Okay. Well, I think that sounds to me like something that the documentation team would have to look at, and it's possibly quite a big job to get that in place. But I guess, but it's a fair comment.
Sure. And yeah, in meantime, do you know if you've got an equivalent of iNotify for Windows beacons?
It's a question which has been asked before. Leah, maybe were you doing something with Beacon
Exactly.
recently?
We're using Watchdog module for that.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. Watchdog. We look into it.
And I'm hoping to have basically Watchdog, Beacon, Reactor, and Scheduler article next workgroup published with an example of basically correcting something in the Win registry.
Excellent.
Local and region format example, just a plain simple example.
Yeah, it would be great. Yeah, cool.
Right, so it looks like Shane isn't coming back for whatever reason, and also the meeting's supposed to finish at, well, for me it's 6 o'clock, but obviously that will be different for different people. And there's a open hour at 6 o'clock for me as well. So unless anybody else has anything else to bring to the meeting, we should probably call it a day here.
Sounds like a plan. Are you able to stop the recording?
I have a button which says end, and I'll see what happens. Yeah, I think I can do that.
Cool, cool. Thanks for all the answers, by the way, and see ya next
Okay, no
time.
you very
problem. No, we'll
much.
see you next month. Yeah, okay. Bye then.
Bye bye.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye bye.